Hello. What happens to people when they spend years behind bars? One researcher found that in a number of cases, the imprisoned become artists. We'll hear more about their work and when that researcher is coming to town. Plus, Mary Cardwell Dawson worked hard to make sure African-American classical musicians in Pittsburgh had an opportunity to play. Well, the home where she taught lessons and held practices is continuing to undergo renovations. We'll get an update. And there's a new and exciting attraction coming to Pittsburgh, but you'll have to stick around to find out what it is. So pull up a chair and meet us at the corner. Intersection starts right now. Hello, I'm Lisa Smith, Director of Community Impact at KDKA Plus and the host of Intersections. Most likely, you don't think of a prison as being filled with artists. Well, one researcher has found that prisoners have found art to be a way to express themselves, and they are continuing to create art even after being released. You can see some of this art later this month at the Heinz History Center, and here to share more about the lecture and event is Samuel Black. He is the Director of African American Programs at the Heinz History Center, and welcome back to Intersections.
Well, it's glad to be here.
Yeah, so this is really interesting. You know, we don't, like I said, we don't normally think of people in prison as being artists, but tell us a little bit about this presentation that you guys are having.
Well, Dr. Nicole Fleetwood is the James Weldon Johnson Professor of Media and Art at New York University. She's a MacArthur Genius Award winner, a Guggenheim Fellow, has won numerous awards, including the National Book Award for marking time art in the age of mass incarceration. Her work centers on presenting artists who are either incarcerated or were incarcerated at one point in their life. Some of them weren't artists when they first went to prison, became artists. So it really reflects on the humanity of incarcerated people and how they were able to find a voice through creating art, whether it's sculpture, whether it's painting, whether it's drawing, mixed media. And she discovered a number of artists all across this country who had this incarceration background or were currently incarcerated. And she curated their work and presented it in a book. And she's going to join us, do a lecture, show some of this work, and then do a book signing.
Yeah, I'm guessing you've seen some of the work already.
I've seen the book.
Okay.
And I haven't seen the actual work. It was on display as recently as last December at the Schomburg Center in New York. It's been at the Museum of Modern Art in New York. And so it's sort of making its rounds. But when you look at some of the work, either online or that's in her book, you can attest to maybe these aren't incarcerated people. You know, these are people who have real art backgrounds or training, and it's not necessarily so. Sometimes people use art as a way of treating their therapy in a sense. I know as a historian of Vietnam veterans, there's quite a few Vietnam veterans who treated their PTSD by becoming artists and letting art be sort of the therapy, but also giving them a voice. And what Fleetwood has presented to us is that voice of incarcerated people through their art.
Yeah, one of the people who is featured in her book is from Pittsburgh. Tell me a little bit about him. James
Huff is from Pittsburgh, and he does a bit of, his art is diverse. He does paintings, he also does murals. He actually has a mural in the Hill District, and people have probably seen it a number of times and not know his background. But he was not an artist when he was incarcerated. He became an artist, again, as someone who found a voice through art to be able to have a different reflection on the world.
What does it say when people with no training, no formal training, are able to, in a sense, sit down and come up with works that others admire like this?
Well, I think it goes back to the humanity more than anything else. We're talking about human beings, regardless of being an incarcerated person. And when you tap into your humanity, and the thing with incarcerated people is that they have time. And as many of them will tell you, all they have is time. Mm-hmm. And so they have time to reflect, they have time to create. And that's what we're seeing, and that's what Dr. Fleetwood is presenting to us.
Yeah, I think I read on her website that some of the artists actually are able to use this as a form of activism. Is that what a lot of them are doing, or what are you seeing?
That's part of the voice.
Okay.
They talk about prison life in their art. They talk about the world in their art. They talk about different things that either they experience or they understand in society. And so that's what art is, no matter whether it's paintings, it's sculpture, mixed media, it could be a song, it could be literature, whatever, it's still the human voice.
Mm-hmm. And also, many of the people that she features, they come from various backgrounds, it's very diverse. What does that also say about, the art that's being created?
Well, one of the things I'm really pleased with her research is that she didn't limit it to just men. It's men and women. Mm-hmm. She didn't limit it to one race or another. It's not just African Americans or whites. It's everybody. And what she did was cast a wide net. Let's look and see what is going on in prisons and what is the impact for incarcerated people as they create things, whether they're artists. And one of the things I like about it is that she doesn't evaluate it. She's not a judge, she's not a jury in terms of looking at the art. She's looking at it from the viewpoint of a curator. And she's learning about, and she's talking about the artists. Which is not always done, especially when you're looking at a large group of people that she studied and has brought to us.
Do you think that it also maybe calls into question whether or not some of these individuals were not guided in more of an artistic direction before they fell into trouble? And then I know some of them say that they did not commit the crime, but does it talk a little about, does it kind of make us think about, how are we guiding our young people?
I think it does. I think it gives a different perspective that regardless of your state in life, that it's not over if you make a mistake or if you do something that you regret, make an offense against society. I used to teach in a prison system in upstate New York. And that's one of the things that I discovered was that incarcerated people are honest. At least the ones I taught were honest about their backgrounds and what brought them to that stage in their life. But it was not an end. And so they recognize that as a human being, regardless of your state, which was as an incarcerated person, that they still had a contribution to make to society. And so that's a lot of what it's under the cover in Dr. Fleetwood's work, is that these people are using art as their viewpoint on the world. And it's striking. It's like any other art, it's gonna get you to look at it and contemplate yourself of not so much about what it is they're trying to say, but can I communicate through their art?
Yeah, well, it sounds like a fascinating event, and we're going to put up on our screen when this is happening. It's Wednesday, February 21st, from 5:30 until 7. Tickets are available online, and we have your website there on the screen, and we're going to put it on our website as well. Thank you so much for being with us and telling us about this.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. Well, coming up, lots of work has happened since we last visited the National Opera House. We'll get a look inside. You're watching Intersections. Well, there's a towering house on Apple Street in Homewood with a towering history to match. it was many things, but among them, it was the home to the National Negro Opera Company, started by Mary Cardwell Dawson. She taught, inspired, and cultivated a who's who of African American musicians and singers. But the house fell into disrepair until about 20 years ago, when Jonnet Solomon picked up the mantle to renovate the house and restore it as a community treasure. Jonnet Solomon joins us, and she is the executive director of the nonprofit National Opera House. Welcome back to Intersections.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about, what's been happening with the house. We were there, we kind of saw a lot of work has been done in the last couple of years.
So what has been done is we're finally stabilized, and you can walk through the house and see the glory that built the house, which is German architecture and craftsmanship, and now the house is ready for construction.
Yeah, and it has like that Queen Anne looking roof structure.
Yes.
So I know that recently, maybe a few months ago, there was a national group that came to town just to see it. Tell us about them and why they were here.
A few months ago, we were visited by the National Trust for Historic Preservation. Initially, we were going to have about 10 to 15 people, but we hosted 60 people for lunch at the Opera House. And they were here because they are the largest donors to preservation in America. And they wanted to see where their dollars were going. And the Opera House is one of their signature assets.
Yeah. So you were talking about the construction that's happening inside and what's going to be happening next. So what is the plan, the overall plan for what will be in the house once everything is said and done?
Well, what will be in the house is what happened in the house before, except for the museum. The first floor will be a museum honoring Mary Cardwell Dawson, Woogie Harris, and everything that transpired in the house to make it a historical landmark. And we will once again give lessons in the house and use it for rental space. And we will have an amphitheater outside for performances.
Wow, that'll be good.
Yes.
What is the timeline looking like right now?
That's such a great question. After 20 years, I kind of stay away from timeline questions. But we're hoping with this next stage of construction that it would be about 18 months.
Okay, all right. So in the meantime, I've noticed that you guys have a number of partnerships. One, you have this workforce development program. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, so we have a preservation construction workforce development program because construction preservation was not a huge industry here in Pittsburgh. And so to get the required workforce necessary for construction, we started training young people that can be part of the labor force for the construction of the house.
Wow.
Yes.
And are they finding a lot of projects that need to be done around town?
I wouldn't say a lot of projects, but they are finding enough projects to do to get their hours of training in to be prepared for when the house is ready.
Yeah, okay. And then something called arts keeping? What is that?
So arts keeping is an professional artist development program that we actually launched, I want to say years ago in testing the program. But what it does is it helps artists to build their brand and business so that they're not just the art, but they're the business in order to be successful. And we have tested various models of this program and found one that's very successful that will propel an artist forward and their brand forward as well.
That's very important.
Yes.
Very important.
It is.
The Woogie Fund.
Yes.
That's obviously after Woogie Harris.
Well, Woogie was called the bank, and he was known for funding businesses all over Pittsburgh. And people don't understand that in order to really grow your business, you need financing, or maybe they do understand that. And Woogie supplied that funding. So part of our programming is to develop funding for businesses in order to really grow faster and be a catalyst for them.
Have you found a number of businesses, or are they smaller startup businesses, I'm assuming?
They're small and startup, yes.
Yeah. Are they coming and they, coming to you guys looking for assistance?
Yes, we have an inundated amount of businesses that really, really need help and resources. And even if they cannot receive the Woogie Fund, they can receive resources from us.
Okay. And then the Manor Club, what is that?
Well, the Manor Club is now getting started.
Okay.
And really, it's just going to be a group of people that are advocating for the Opera House. And we're hoping that this is the club that talks about the story and amplifies it. Back in the day, they had a manor club that met in the basement, and it was a tea room, and it will be a tea room once again. So we're hoping to get this type of community together to amplify the story.
I know recently you had an opportunity to talk to young people about the history
Yes.
of, the Opera House. What is so important about making sure young people know what is right here in Pittsburgh that is historical in nature?
I think what's most important is just the history and the inspiration behind people like Mary Caldwell Dawson and Woogie Harris. Sometimes you think you're the only one doing something or you're the only one struggling, but it's important to know people went before you. They were able to be very successful, and it happened right here in Pittsburgh. And now we have people traveling from all over the country to visit Pittsburgh and understand the motivation and inspiration behind the lives, like Mary Caldwell Dawson.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jonnet, for coming, but you're not going anywhere. Because coming up, we have a big announcement about something new coming to Pittsburgh. Intersections, we'll be right back. Well, you know that Pittsburgh is known as the Steel City. Some may now also call it Art City. Theaters and museums are plentiful here, but soon there will be one more unique offering that will increase the art scene in Pittsburgh. Jonnet Solomon is staying with us to talk more about this and share some details. And actually, there's an announcement that you're going to make. So tell us a little bit about what is this brand new attraction that's going to be coming here to Pittsburgh.
The brand new attraction coming to Pittsburgh is the Diversity Museum of Art and Culture. It will be on the south side, and we have partnered, the National Opera House and myself have partnered with the museum to offer art of the future, art of the 21st century, right here in Pittsburgh.
Wow, wow. So that sounds super exciting. So tell me a little bit about, who's behind this? You're partnering with what organization or what individual?
So the mastermind and brain behind this entire endeavor is Mr. Michael Berger, who has been collecting art for decades and now will be sharing his understanding and love of art here in Pittsburgh at the Diversity Museum.
Wow. So where will it be, and what can people expect, and kind of what's the layout and what's going to be inside? Kind of give us an idea.
So it will be on 6th Street on the south side. It will be 2 floors. The first floor will be completely devoted to culture and art. So that will be performances, it will be poetry, it will be up and coming operatic work. And the second floor will be completely devoted to artwork of the future. So these are artists that are 21st century artists. Maybe some of the artists from the project at the Heinz History Center.
Wow.
Yes.
We were just talking about Mary Caldwell Dawson, and in a sense, this almost sounds like a progression of what she was doing. Is that how you approached it?
That's definitely how we approach it, and that's why I'm excited about this partnership, because it's extending her vision and her dream to give access to art and artists in a new way to a new audience.
Yeah. No, right now it's a warehouse. We just showed some pictures of it, but it's going to go through a full, renovation, a change, so that it's ready for this art. Tell us a little bit more about Mr. Berger and how long he has been, I guess, collecting art. He's collected art for a while.
As I mentioned, he's collected art for decades. His background is in industrial real estate here in Pittsburgh. His father was in industrial real estate, and he is as well, but he has always had an affinity and a love for art and artists and that communication that art has to the public.
And I read, and you tell me if I'm wrong, that he has a connection to Andy Warhol.
He does have a connection to Andy Warhol, and he's a collector of Andy Warhol assets, which he still owns, yes.
Yeah. So once this is opened, what will people who come experience? Because it sounds like people will be able to have different experiences and events and things like that. So how will the public be able to kind of engage with this art, or even contribute, if possible, to this art?
That's a great question. We're hoping the public will come and really have a different level of art experiences in the space between performances and activity on the first floor and the actual art in the second floor. Our goal is to just elevate the art experience for the visitor.
Yeah. Do you know at this point what your timeline is? Timeline. I keep talking about it. What are you guys hoping? Planning, projecting in terms of how soon this will be able to open?
Well, we love timelines at the Diversity Museum, unlike at the Opera House. And although I cannot give a specific date, it will be this year, and it will be at the end of this year.
Wow. Wow. What is the need for something like this here in Pittsburgh? We do have several museums. We just talked to the Hines. But is there a need for this? How will this sounds, is it more of a niche type of museum? And you say diversity and culture, how will that diversity and culture kind of come together?
It is a niche, but it's also for many people. And the need for the museum is that it's 21st century art. So it's modern art, it's art of today, but more importantly, it's art of the future. It's a space for the future artists, the people we will celebrate next February, and the people that are making history. And I think that's what makes it really different. We're looking at the visionaries. We're looking to the future, and that's what makes it unique.
Well, it definitely sounds unique and it sounds exciting. And thank you for, telling us about it first here on Intersections.
Absolutely.
We appreciate it. Thanks so much. All right. And I'll have my last word when we come back. Beauty. They say it's in the eye of the beholder. Many times that phrase is used as a reference to art. And if that's the case, can we also say beauty is in the eye of the creator? After all, you have to have a good eye to create art. It starts with an idea, an inspiration, or an experience. And it doesn't matter where the artist is. It could be a loft, an art studio, and as we heard today, a prison. Inspiration is indiscriminate, and so is beauty. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Intersections.